Good morning, Year 4. This is your Thursday maths lesson, and today we're going to continue looking at fractions using the cuisenaire. And we're going to play a game called the naming game, where you have to try and work out what different rods are worth. So your TLP for today is, can I find fractions of a whole? And it's really important that you remember a fraction is always a fraction of something. Okay, let's have a look at some fraction walls because they really help us to understand what fractions are and how we say the fraction names. So remember, a fraction is always a fraction of something. So we always have to have our whole, our one. The thing we're sharing, it could be a cake, it could be a chocolate bar, it could be a bag of sweets, it could be a group of people. Whether it's lots of things or just one thing, we call it the whole. If we split this whole into two, then we have two halves. If we split this whole into four, we have 4 quarters. Each one of these is 1 part out of 4. We can then split these quarters again into eighths. So we have 8 eighths in our whole here. Each one of these parts is 1 part out of 8. We could even divide these into sixteenths. Okay, here is another whole. This time I'm going to share my whole into 3 parts. I've shared it into thirds. I can share those into sixths. Each one of these is 1 out of 6. We could share those again into twelfths. And even into 24ths. There are now 24 parts to our whole. Here's another whole. This time it's shared into 5 parts. Fifths. These can be shared into tenths and even into 20ths. Wow, look at that. That's into 40ths. There are 40 small parts there in our whole, and each one is 1 out of 40, 1/40th. So yesterday we said this orange was worth 10, but actually it can be worth anything we like. Remember, a fraction is always a fraction of something. So our whole here could be 10, our orange could be worth 10, or it could be worth any other number that we decide. Let's say it's worth 100. If I add 2 yellows, what is 1 yellow worth? I've got 2 halves. What's half of 100? That's right. My yellow is worth 50. 50 hundredths, which is the same as a half. Okay, I've used 5 reds. What is each of my reds worth? What's a fifth of 100? If my orange stick was worth 10, then each one of these would be worth 2. But my orange here is worth 100. So what is each red worth? That's right. 20. 5 times 20 is 100. So each one of these reds is 20 hundredths. We can say this is the same as 2 tenths or 1/5. 1 red out of 5 reds. I'm not sure how clearly you can see those whites, but I've got 10 whites there. How much much is each of those whites worth? If I've got 10 parts to my whole, each one is 1/10. Each one is worth 10 if my orange is worth 100. I've got 10 tenths. Let's play the naming game. If my pink is now worth 100, my whole is 100, what's a red rod worth? What's a white rod worth? I've got 2 red rods, so each one is a half. I've got 4 white rods, so each one is a quarter. That's right, each red rod is 50 hundredths. Each white rod is 25 hundredths. We can also see that the white rods are actually quarters and the red rods are actually halves. Now Year 4, we know a lot of you will be filling in the pit with this right now. And that's absolutely fine. We're going to be working on fractions for the next 4 weeks, and it's a really tricky topic to do at home without the normal resources you would have in school. You and your grown-ups will be working really hard to try and work this out, so don't feel upset or frustrated if you're in the pit. It's a good place to be, and we'll get out of it together. Don't forget, Year 4, we're on hand at 11:30 each day for the drop-in if you need some help. And Miss B will be focusing on fractions in her small groups, really unpicking it with you so you can understand it. So keep trying, Year 4. Well done. Okay, Year 4, so let's play the naming game. If dark green is 60, then what is light green, red and white? Let me model to you. So this is 60. This is our whole. We have 2 light greens, so that's our half. That's worth 30 each. 30 out of 60. Our red, well, we've got 3 of those, so that's 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. So I need to divide 60 by 3. So each one of those is worth 20. So 1/3 is 20 60ths. And then here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sixths. What's 60 divided by 6? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. So each one of these is worth 10. 10 60ths. If yellow is 25, then what is white? Can you work it out? I've got 5/5 here. What's 25 divided by 5? Well, I know my 5 times table, so I'm going to count in 5s and see if that's right, because it ends in a 5, it might be. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Okay, so each one of these is worth 5. 5 25ths. It's the same as 1/5. I'm making links like Sid the Spider. I really need to use my times tables to work all of this out. Okay, if brown is 160, then what is pink, red and white worth? So my whole, that's worth 160. I've got halves, I've got quarters, and I've got 8s. Can I work out how much each is worth? Pause the video and have a go. Half of 160, that's 80, because I know that half of 16 is 8. If I don't know what half of 16 is, I could draw my 2 circles and do my dots, or I could do 16 sticks, couldn't I, for my 160. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. Great. Right, what's a quarter of 160 then? Let's see. A quarter. Right, well, I've got to half that again, haven't I? I think I know what half of 80 is, because I know what half of 8 is. I think a quarter, I think each one of these is worth 40. 40 plus another 40 is 80, plus another 40, 120, plus another 40 is 160. Great, I've got that right. 1/8. What's 160 divided by 8? Let's think. 160 divided by 8. Well, if one of these is worth 40, I could halve it again, and then these have got to be worth 20. Let's count it up to check. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, 140, 160. Yay, I got it right. That was really hard. Okay, Year 4, now it's your turn to have a go. Here are some green challenges. Here are some amber challenges. Here are some red challenges. Some of you might like an extension. Have a go at these questions and set them out in your book. We can go through the answers later at Zoom. Pause the video and have a go. Here's a super challenge for you as well. You need to draw out the shapes in your book and shade in the right amount. Bring your answers to Zoom and we'll check them later. Well done, Fabulous Fours! Here are the answers to today's challenges. If our whole is 1,000, then half of 1,000 is 500, 500 thousandths. A quarter is 250, 250 thousandths. And an eighth is worth 125, 125 thousandths. That was hard, Year 4. If blue is 900, then green is a third, because there are 3 of them. 300 900ths. And a white is worth 100. 100 900ths. And here's the last one. If the orange is 500, then half of that, one of our yellows, is worth 250. Our reds are worth 100, 100 500ths. And our whites are worth 50, 50 500ths.